This is a review of The Lord of the Rings, The Art of the Fellowship of the Ring, which is kind of a strange title because surely it should be The Art of the Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. And I mention this inconsequential detail because it is essentially the closest thing approaching a criticism I can make against this book. I'll readily admit I am completely biased. The Lord of the Rings are my favorite movies of all time, so I just think this book is amazing. Which I guess on one hand is helpful because it sort of means that, at least it gets this fan's seal of approval. But in going back and rereading it for this review, I tried to look at it with a more critical eye. And I will admit, it isn't necessarily the most amazing art book you'll ever see. And so before I get into all the reasons why I like it, I just thought I'd address who this book might not be for. I know a lot of people get these art books, including myself occasionally, purely because they want awesome artwork, awesome fantasy artwork, awesome Lord of the Rings artwork, really inspiring, cool stuff that's just sort of finished, amazing art to look at. And if that's what you're hoping for, then you may not find this book that satisfying. I mean, when you've got Alan Lee, John Howe, and Weta designing a movie, you're inevitably going to have amazing art, of course, but it's the sort of art is perhaps it looks a little, there's a lot of black and white sketches, a lot of things that look kind of incomplete, sort of sketchy color studies of locations, things like that. It's very kind of practical and simple. Now, simple is not necessarily a bad thing at all. Sparsity is a bad thing, which thankfully this book is free of. It's packed with 500 images and all the space is used, taken up by either the images or the text. So if it's not the art that's particularly inspiring, what's so good about this book? Well, I think its real value lies in its strength as a companion to the movie. If you're a fan who's watched these movies a million times, this is a great book to sort of sit through and flick through while the movie's playing as sort of like a visual commentary on the evolution of the design process. And it's really fun to be able to pause the movie and see how the designs translated to the final film. Because there's also a really great variety of imagery in here of what they term art. So you've got the concept art, the sketches, but there are also things like the costume sketches and the weapon and props design, the maquette sculptures, even things to do with sort of the digital artistry, which is something that's usually reserved for making of books. This approach of trying to showcase a more full gamut of what is art and design in a movie. And it's really great how the later Hobbit Chronicles series has sort of identified those strengths and taken them even further. As for the text, it's really good too. It's really great how, like, I've listened to all the commentaries on the DVDs, I've read all the other making of books, watched all the behind the scenes features, things like that. It's really great that it feels like there's a ton of information about the making of the movie that's exclusive to this book rather than just sort of rehashing things you'll have already heard. The text starts with a really great introduction. The sort of author of this book, Gary Russell, does what sort of all the greatest art and making of books do, which is he just lets the filmmakers themselves talk in their own words rather than reinterpreting their words for them. And so the introduction is just sort of like paragraph after paragraph of like Richard Taylor, Grant Major, Alan Lee, John Howe, and some of the other production heads talking about the art and design of the film. And then all the rest of the text throughout the book is about, I'd say probably about once every page, you'll get a piece of commentary. I'd say about 50% of the time these are by Gary Russell, just sort of explaining what you're looking at, the purpose of what you're looking at. Still really good. But then the other 50% are even better because it's commentary direct from the artists and designers. And what I especially love about the commentary is that it does something that so few art books do, unfortunately, which is rather than speaking about a specific aspect of the design in a general sense, their comments are relating to the specific piece you're looking at on the page. I mean, the comments are usually only a sentence or two, but it's basically the closest thing you can have to John Howe sitting next to you, explaining the ideas behind one of his drawings. So I mean, could this book be better? Could it be more amazing? Yeah, of course. But as a fan of the movie, I still really enjoy it. I really treasure it. Stuff in here that you aren't going to find anywhere else, that will enhance your knowledge and appreciation of the movies. Of course, I don't expect it to be everyone's cup of tea, even other fans of the movie. I mean, you'll be able to use the flip through as a guide to sort of see how exciting you find it. But I will say, for anyone who has been inspired by this video to go and get a copy, if you go looking online, you may come across a book called The Art of the Lord of the Rings. Just ignore that. You want to get the 3 individual art books. I will actually be doing a review on The Art of the Lord of the Rings, and I'll go into more detail why I don't recommend that for most people. But that's still going to be a few weeks away, so I just wanted to put a quick note here in case anyone based on this video is now excited to go out and get a copy. But yes, we'll definitely be going through all of the art books related to the Lord of the Rings. So, like it says on the very last page of this book, to be continued in The Art of the Two Towers, The Lord of the Rings. What? Whoever was writing these titles was smoking some serious pipeweed.